Ben, thank you very much indeed. Well, that is all from me and the team here in Manchester on the BBC News at 6. I'll be back later for the BBC News at 10. But for now, it's time to join our colleagues across the country for the news where you are. Goodbye.
Hello, good evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Welcome to a special edition of North West Tonight, this evening live from Crumpsall in Manchester on the day that this area's Jewish community was targeted in a terrorist attack on its holiest day of the year. The moment the attacker is shot by police firearms officers after stabbing worshippers, killing 2 and seriously injuring 4 outside a synagogue.
He was stabbing at the window, so the police screamed at him, you know, packing him kind of thing. And then he like turned round and he looked like he was going to mess with something in his jacket, so they opened fire at him.
It's believed the killer lived nearby in this quiet, multicultural suburban part of the city.
There are grieving families and communities at the heart of this in Greater Manchester and beyond. I would therefore ask that people refrain from sharing disturbing and insensitive content online. If you have information, then share it with the police.
There's been widespread condemnation of the atrocity. As community leaders appeal for calm, the Prime Minister says we all need to support each other.
And I promise you that this Britain will come together to wrap our arms around your community and show you that Britain is a place where you and your family are safe, secure, and belong.
It was just at 9:30 this morning that terror came to this part of North Manchester. The Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue, just round the corner behind me, over there where you can see the top of the ambulance, where worshippers were making their way to the synagogue for the most holy day on the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. They started arriving from 9 o'clock, and at 9:30 a car was driven into them. A man leapt from the car, brandishing a knife, and began stabbing people. 2 people died, 4 people were seriously injured, and the attacker, who tried to break his way into the building, was barricaded out by those inside, was shot dead by armed police. They were called at 9:31. The attacker died just 7 minutes later. It has been a day that this community in North Manchester will never forget. And Mairead Smith can recap exactly what happened here.
Armed police within the railings of Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue, confronting the suspect on the ground, telling people to stay away, shouting, "He has a bomb."
He has a bomb! Go away!
Seconds later, a shot is fired as the man attempted to stand up. Rob Cantor was inside the synagogue when the attack happened.
It's the adrenaline kicks in and you're just kind of like, you're kind of like, actually, am I really hearing that, But you are aware, and I think my first response is, right, how are we going to keep myself and as everyone else safe? When we were moved down Middleton Road, the local community of all faiths and none who came out their homes, and their first thought was just to check on our well-being, that were we okay, could we do anything, that, even though they knew it was a fast day, could we get you a drink, could we get you anything to eat? And that, is a very touching moment. But we carried on and did, not the whole service, but we did what we could in the circumstances. And yes, some people felt, your mind's on many things, but at the end of the day, our rabbi's role was to try and say, yes, this is a terrible tragedy, but at the end of the day, we want to try, where possible, to remember today is the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement.
Police had been called to the scene shortly after 9:30 when a car was driven into people outside the synagogue. Armed officers arrived after further reports of a knife attack. Witnesses say police warned the suspect before firing at him. Paramedics arrived at the scene and further worry set in as armed officers feared explosives were trapped to the suspect's body. 2 people were confirmed dead shortly after. The suspect was shot dead by armed officers. 4 others were taken to hospital. Eyewitnesses described what they saw unfold before them.
As we arrived, literally the car was crashed into like a wall. So as we was coming through the traffic, we just presumed like it was just a car crash, you see it all the time on that road. And then literally, I noticed there was a guy dead on the floor. There was another guy in front of him, in front of the car. I don't know if the car had hit him or whatever, but whatever, he was on the floor fighting for his life. And then literally someone in the crowd shouted, "He's got something on him." And as I turned round, he was literally stabbing at the synagogue window. Police screamed at him, packing him kind of thing. And then he like turned round and he looked like he was going to mess with something in his jacket, so they opened fire at him.
And I just hope that our community, just something to try and calm ourselves, because there's never been anything like this, never. We live together really nicely, so it really is just a big shock.
A huge investigation is now underway. Counter-terror officers say they believe they know the identity of the attacker, and 2 other people have been arrested.
There are grieving families and communities at the heart of this, in Greater Manchester and beyond. I would therefore ask that people refrain from sharing disturbing and insensitive content online. If you have information, then share it with the police.
The Mayor of Greater Manchester was live on BBC Radio Manchester when the news broke this morning.
I've got a very significant role in relation to reassuring all of our communities, but particularly in this instance the Jewish community, who have seen rising incidents of anti-Semitism over recent times and have been living with a higher state of anxiety because of the times that we're living in.
Today's incident is being treated as a terror attack. Terror that unfolded on the holiest of days for Jewish people throughout the world, in the heart of this community in Manchester.
Well, I go back many years with that synagogue myself. I was bar mitzvahed there. I had been married there, and my parents are members. And when my mum passed away, we held the morning prayers for my mum. So I know the rabbi and the congregation well. I have spoken to 1 or 2 people that were on their way to the synagogue this morning, and everybody is completely shocked, very, very upset.
This morning's attack was dealt with in a matter of minutes. Its impact on this part of Manchester will be long-lasting. Mairead Smith, BBC North West Tonight, Crunsall.
Let's talk to North West Tonight reporter Anna Jameson. She was the first reporter here. You were here, Anna, literally within a matter of minutes of this happening. You don't live an awful long way from here. Just explain what you found, what the scene was when you arrived.
Yeah, well, when I arrived here, all I could hear was emergency services, sirens, blue, yellow, red, flashing, and we could hear the helicopter propelling overhead and the police cordon taping off this entire area. And it's a large area. Middleton Road is one of the main arteries in and out of Manchester and Bury onto the M60. And when we arrived here, there was lots of people from the Jewish community who were confused. There were many were dressed in white because it is Yom Kippur, it's the holiest day of the year, and they were themselves going to congregation. And when I spoke to them, they said, look, we can't chat on camera because this is our holiest day. We don't check our phones. We're fasting. This is the significance of the day today, and a large number of people, more people than usual, will have been at the synagogue because, like religious events, people tend to come out for the main ones.
And interestingly, this evening, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, is here. We're seeing live pictures now. She's just arrived by another part of the cordon. Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, is there as well. When the worshippers were ushered out of the synagogue, they went down Bury New Road. They were taken to somewhere safe. They continued their prayers when they arrived at a place of safety.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? And it just shows really the way that people come together in these circumstances. It's funny how people react in certain situations, but yes, the prayer continued, and
somebody inside actually told me before that the adrenaline kicks in and you go into fight or fight mode, and as they were transported he felt part of that community, and all he wanted to do now was see his family and friends. When I arrived here, there was people looking ahead at the cordon asking where their relatives were because they couldn't speak to them and they didn't know as to how safe they were. It was a really difficult few hours in the beginning moments, but I think now families are reuniting with others.
OK, Anna, thank you very much indeed. Anna Jameson here. Let's go live to Andy Burnham. He's at the other part of the cordon. Let's take a listen to what he's saying.
It's an organisation that we owe a huge debt of thanks to, that works to keep our communities safe. Tonight, our first thoughts are with the families of those people who died, those injured and those traumatised by this and horrific anti-Semitic attack on our Jewish friends and neighbours. We condemn it outright. Greater Manchester will never stand aside when one of our communities is attacked. We ask everyone to show solidarity to the Jewish community this weekend, and already we've mobilised through our interfaith network messages of support and solidarity through places of worship. We always will stand together here in Greater Manchester, and we will never let acts that are designed to cause hatred, division in our communities, violence, we will never let them succeed. And that's our message tonight to everybody across Greater Manchester. Do not let them succeed. Respond by reaching out, by redoubling efforts to work together and stand together in these difficult times.
Andy Burnham there speaking at another part of the cordon. He's visiting. He's going to talk to some of the first responders who were here. He's with the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, as well, at the end of a really traumatic day here, one which has brought condemnation across the country and sympathy and support from many areas. The King and Queen saying that they sent their heartfelt sympathies to those involved, their shock, and for many people, revulsion at what has happened here. And you heard Andy Burnham there talking about people coming together. Let's take a look at some of the other reaction which has happened across the country and further afield. Andy Gill has been rounding that up today.
In Manchester itself, there's widespread condemnation of the attack from both Jewish organisations such as the Northwest Friends of Israel.
We all knew that this was going to come. Every single Jewish person in this country understood that this moment would come at some stage because this hatred has been allowed to go unchecked for 2 years. And sadly today, I never thought it would happen at my synagogue in my city, but it's something that we all expected.
And there's shock but not surprise from Jews elsewhere in the Northwest. The chair of the Southport Reform Synagogue, Dr. Selwyn Goldthorpe, said, "The attack has not really surprised us. We've always known that people are anti-Semitic, but over the last year the increase in anti-Semitism is quite profound." He said, "We're all very upset about what has gone on. The Jewish community is one big family. Most people in Liverpool and Southport will know people in Manchester." The local MP says he knows many of the congregation at the synagogue by their first names.
I would be upset. It's an attack like that anywhere in Manchester or anywhere in the country, indeed. But I'm particularly upset because I know it so well.
In a statement, the King said he and the Queen have been deeply shocked and saddened to learn of the horrific attack in Manchester, especially on such a significant day for the Jewish community. He said their thoughts and prayers are with all those affected by this appalling incident, and they greatly appreciate the swift actions of the emergency services. The Community Support Trust, a charity which provides security for Jews in the UK, said it was appalled by the attack. It said it would be working with police in Manchester and across the country to ensure security at synagogues and in the wider Jewish community is as strong as it can be over the coming days and weeks. It urged people not to congregate at communal premises and for synagogues to keep their doors closed at all times. Andy Gill, BBC Northwest Tonight.
The Prime Minister cut short a visit to a summit in Copenhagen in Denmark earlier today to come back. He gave a statement just around 5 o'clock this evening. Let's have a listen to what Sir Keir Starmer had to say.
To every Jewish person in this country, I also want to say this. I know how much fear you will be holding inside of you. I really do. And so, on behalf of our country, I express my solidarity, but also my sadness that you still have to live with these fears. Nobody should have to do that. Nobody. And so I promise you that I will do everything in my power to guarantee you the security that you deserve, starting with a more visible police presence protecting your community. I promise you that over the coming days, you will see the other Britain, the Britain of compassion, of decency, of love. And I promise you that this Britain will come together to wrap our arms around your community and show you that Britain is a place where you and your family are safe, secure, and belong.
That was Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, speaking a little earlier. We heard from Graham Stringer. He's the MP for Blakely and Broughton. I think this is just technically in his constituency, but it is neighboured by Christian Wakeford's Bury South constituency, and he is here. Thank you for joining us. Your reaction on a terrible, shocking day?
I mean, I think like most Mancunians, most residents, most friends, and most of the country, you know, they were waking up to this story as it was happening, and it just didn't feel real. I mean, you see stories like this happen in other places. With Manchester, it doesn't really come here, but when you see it in your neighbourhood, your community, your street with your friends, it goes beyond reality. It's very, very surreal. So it was a case of get down here quickly and try and show what support we can do, speak to friends and constituents, and just offer as much reassurance and in case of you know, the police and CSD as much thanks as we can do, because you know, this could have been a lot worse without them.
It absolutely could, and it sounds like the volunteer security staff on the gate performed heroically. I drove past the synagogue earlier this morning. I knew it was Yom Kippur. Greater Manchester Police had a police car stationed outside that synagogue. As far as we know, there wasn't one here. Maybe there's somewhere down the line there's some questions to be answered about whether it could have been safer.
Oh, I mean, speaking to CSD, they actually paid extra to get a second security guard today, thinking it's the High Holy Day with all the tensions going around at the moment. So they dipped into their own pockets to pay for a second security guard, and without that, I don't want to think what could have happened.
The CST, they're the community trust that support the synagogues. And it is, as Andy Burnham has said, as Keir Starmer has said, everyone has said, Nigel Farage has said it as well, it is a time for people to come together, to support each other.
I mean, it is. I mean, I saw a young Jewish family going to a synagogue literally just around the corner this afternoon, and to have them, including the little girls who are probably about the age of my daughter, genuinely thankful to be protected going into synagogue. And I challenge anyone to keep a dry eye when they see something like that. But it meant so much to them that they could pray on this, the holiest day of the year for them. And, you know, I think we all do need to think about that, and we need to think about our language, you know, the rhetoric that's used. But this wasn't an anti-Semitic attack. I don't think that word does it justice. This was an anti-Jewish hatred attack, and a terrorist one at that. This was a coward who's decided to go out there and try to kill as many people as he can on the holiest day of the year. And, you know, I think, again, thank you to the police for just being there so quickly.
Christian, thank you very much indeed. Christian Wakeford, MP for Bury South, thank you very much indeed. We're very grateful to you for standing out in the drizzle here in Crumpsall to talk to us. We've heard some of the political reaction, as I mentioned. The Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has been speaking today ahead of the Conservative conference that takes place in Manchester. They'll be coming here at the weekend. She's been speaking to Kevin Fitzpatrick and giving him her reaction to what happened here.
I was absolutely horrified to hear about the attack in Manchester today, and also to discover just now that 2 people have died from being stabbed. It was a violent, disgusting attack. I'm very worried about the climate of fear and aggression that's being created around Jewish people in this country. Britain is a country that has always been safe for Jewish people. Lots of them fled the rest of Europe, fled the Holocaust to be here. Britain should continue to be a safe place for Jews.
We've seen rise in anti-Jewish sentiment, haven't we? How do you protect and keep safe those communities?
I think government needs to do a lot to support them. When we were in government, we gave a lot of funding around security. The Community Security Trust, the Labour government should continue to do that. But we also need to be very careful about the rhetoric that's being used around Jews. There is a war in the Middle East. It is very difficult. There have been casualties on both sides. We know that in Palestine, in particular, a lot of people are suffering. But a lot of the language, a global intifada, things like that, very significant in contributing to an atmosphere of significant hostility to Jewish people, and we need to stop that.
Is society becoming less tolerant, and what can be done about that?
I think society is becoming a lot more polarised, and what we need are politicians and political parties who can speak in a way that brings people together rather than picking sides and pitting people against each other. That's something I'm very much against.
That was Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader, speaking to Kevin Fitzpatrick. As you can see, we have another guest here at the Cordon in Crumpsall. Delighted to say that the Bishop of Manchester, David Walker, is with us. And Bishop David, thank you for joining us. It's the question I've asked everybody, and everybody has said the same thing, and it's an obvious question to an obvious an answer to a question. But what's your reaction to what we've seen today?
Well, it's shocking. It's doubly shocking this has happened on a day which is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Clearly a day deliberately chosen to be the most provocative it possibly could be. And that's why it's even more important than ever that we respond not with hatred, but by showing that we've lived together in harmony in Manchester.
I was speaking to somebody here today who was there, who witnessed what happened, who said to me that, that people here in this community, there's Hebrew above the door over there, and there's Arabic over a door across the road. They live side by side, and whatever's happening in other parts of the world, this is their community, and they don't feel it affects them. We've seen. It's almost impossible to be impervious, isn't it? And yet people want to be. To whatever else is happening.
I mean, I live on the edge of this community, just on the main road, the one side of it. I shop at some of the local shops around here, and people live together well. They get on with their lives. It's not a place that's known for particular high tensions. People have come from all over the world to live in this part of Manchester, and they want to make a good life for themselves and their families and their communities.
What would your message be to all the different faiths? I mean, the Jewish people said today, it's Yom Kippur. We don't really want to speak because today is not a day to speak. You are, our Christian leader in Manchester, the Bishop of the city. It's important that all the faiths come together, isn't it?
It is, we've already issued a statement this afternoon from the faith leaders in Greater Manchester in solidarity with what the Jewish community is going through this time. We will stand as firmly together with them as we would stand with any of our communities in a time of difficulty, in a time of tragedy.
And of course many people, because it is such a holy day, will have cut themselves off from the outside world today, and maybe only now as the sun is going down and they're breaking their fast will be finding out what's happened.
Indeed, I mean many only found out because somebody knocked on their door and told them. And the people who were beginning to realise that perhaps family members might have been at the synagogue, they didn't know where they were, whether they were safe, because they weren't able to use mobile phones during Yom Kippur.
I met a gentleman here who was looking at 5 o'clock and he still didn't know where his brother was, which is terrifying.
Yeah, well, let's hope that now as the sun sets that people are beginning to get that reassurance that their family members, their close ones are well and safe, but of course the trauma goes on.
Thank you, as always, for talking to us. We're very grateful to you, Bishop David Walker, the Bishop of Manchester, speaking to us here. We mentioned that the Home Secretary was here as well. She has just been speaking at the Cordon. She's been here with the Mayor of Greater Manchester. Let's listen to Shabana Mahmood.
I know that there are many questions that are still to be answered, and rest assured they will be answered as quickly as possible. It will just take a little time for us to establish exactly what has happened here, but we will share more information as soon as we are able to. What I do want to say is to those who seek to divide us, they will fail.
Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, speaking here in Manchester as the drizzle begins and darkness falls at the end of a traumatic day for the Jewish community here, a day of commemoration, of solemn reflection, Yom Kippur, the most holy day in the Jewish calendar, but a day which has been completely overturned by events here outside the Heaton Park Mosque, with that attack this morning that has left 2 people dead, 4 people in hospital seriously injured, and the perpetrator shot dead by armed police. If you've been affected by anything that you've heard in the programme, and many people will have been, many people may only just be finding out, as Bishop David and I were just saying, you can find support and organisations which can offer support by going to the BBC Action Line. The address is there on the screen. It's bbc.co.uk/action line. BBC Radio Manchester, Joe McGrath's breakfast programme will come live from Crumpsall tomorrow morning as they continue to reflect, as questions start to be answered and more details become clear about the perpetrator of this awful atrocity at the end of a day which should have been a day of solemn commemoration, but one which has been one marked by tragedy. Good night.